I'm surprised. She's really like when I get to see it. Then I see it often.
And I'm not laughing if you're not. school committee meeting to order. Join me with the pledge of allegiance. Pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I just want to make sure, is Joan online? I can't see from here. Oh,
She has her hand. There she
She
is.
is. So the first item of business is public participation. Is anybody here, either in the audience or online, for the public participation portion of the agenda? Seeing none, we'll move on to reports and presentations. The students, 2 of the 3 students have graduated, so we are going to move to the report of the superintendent with district updates.
Thank you. Just a few updates to be quick. Dr. Kopecki is here, so you'll have a chance to nod to her when she comes up, but I just wanted to mention last week's senior activities, starting with baccalaureate and ending with graduation. Baccalaureate was sort of a reboot. It was on life support for a couple of years, and we were fearful that perhaps the tradition was going to go away. Lauren and her team worked with kids to really revitalize it, and it came back strongly. So great performances by the students. They had some new traditions, which I thought was really nice, where we had a representative from each of our lower schools, the Quinn and the 3 elementaries, talk from personal experience, what it was like to learn there. Also a new tradition to honor retirees. They called Mr. Champney up specifically when they were talking about Forest Ave, so we volunteered. So really well done. The scholarship awards night was later that week. Gave out, as always, tens of thousands of dollars in legal scholarships. I'm always impressed with how much support the local community and the region provide our graduates every year. For a small community like Hudson, it usually covers around $100,000 worth of funds for students looking to continue their education after high school. So that was excellent.
Do we happen to know the figure?
I don't know off the top of
I
my
think
head.
it's higher.
We can find it. I'm sure if not tonight. There was a senior trip in there where they went into Boston. There was senior reception where they spent sort of one final night celebrating together, and then graduation at 11 o'clock on Sunday morning. Really, really well done. I was very impressed with the range of speakers that got up and shared their remarks with the audience. Even with all of that, when it was over, I looked at my watch and it was 12:15, 15 minutes, but really well done. The student remarks were excellent. So just everything went very, very well, and it's a ton of work for the school administration and class advisors, and I just want to shout out to them for all their efforts last week. I think they're missing the seniors, but feeling good that it's behind them now this week. So just want to mention that. And last meeting, I think it was, when we realized that it was Jackson and Julian's last meeting, take blame for this. We didn't think about, presenting them with anything. We talked about, creating a recognition certificate. So we did do that at the central office. It's got room for the chair and the vice chair, so Marshall had to sign them after the meeting. And then I will work to get this to them. I'll add a little note here that they receive it. And then next year, we have a senior. I'll make sure that we have that ready for them on the very last meeting. But just letting you know that we did create them. We'll get those up to those 2 students for their multiple years serving as student representatives in the school committee. Just an update on school safety. So last we spoke, there was 1 quote for a safety audit. We have now received a 2nd quote from another vendor, and we are working on a 3rd, which we hope to have in the next couple of weeks. So maybe by the next school committee meeting, I'll have all 3. They're very similar, not in price, but in scope. So we want to, Dan and I will take some time and dig into it a little bit and see some of the differences and then come with a recommendation. more folks here. Could be something we could use school choice funds to fund. Both quotes so far that the vendors indicated that they could have this done in relatively short order, so it may feel like the summer's coming, but they can also do it when schools are open in the fall and be sort of non-invasive. So the quotes we got were for between 6 buildings or 7, depending on whether or not we want to include Hubert building, which is not our program, it is our building. But I would want to talk to Steve Freitas first to see if he wants to be included, because we don't oversee their procedures and protocols there, but I'm happy to move them. The other thing around school safety, Ellen and I and Lori Coughlin, Ellen's number 2 in her department, have attended demos for 3 different vendors that provide support around school security on the technology side of the house. So I had mentioned that we have a software called Intrado that can help with communication, internal communication. We have our school messenger system that can blast out texts and emails and phone calls in the event of an emergency. We don't have a very good system to sort of communicate in the now with staff in a particular building or staff across the district. So we've been looking into, we started looking into Intrado and how we might be able to beef up our use of that, and then learned about a month ago that Intrado is at end of life. The software is moving beyond its useful period of time. So Ellen quickly got 3 vendors on meets with us, and we sat through their products, and we looked at some really impressive software that can do some enhanced visitor management. We talked about how some schools have systems where your license automatically runs you through different databases. So we looked at a software that does that, using iPads that would be mounted at the entrance to each building. The nice part about the modern version of that software is, just for example, if a parent comes in, uses their license to check in, it also takes a selfie of you, and then as long as you pass, you're good. When you go to other buildings, it's going to capture your face and it's going to indicate that you're clean and you can sign in. So it's just, the technology has just, come so far. Also, like I said, these different softwares allow us to communicate with staff in a building in the middle of a crisis. They also provide individual staff members with the ability to communicate back to us. Some of them have cell phone based panic buttons. So if there's something going on, an adult in the building can trigger an event or communicate with us. So, and then the last thing these companies do is they help us with reunification. So right now, attendance is all through Aspen, but really that's clunky for this type of a situation. So these are designed to have like handheld, software that will allow you to, like if Marsha, you showed up to check out your child at an event, we could use a cell phone or a tablet or a laptop. And in real time would note to the teacher that that parent is here, has been checked in, and help us with that. So just want to let you know. Right, exactly. Yeah. So, modernizing some of those elements, a price tag to these, but we're trying to figure out. So analyzing which one of these is better. There's definitely one company who I won't say publicly yet that offers it in a nice neat package. It is, of course, the most expensive package, free, but when you think about whether that's not necessarily a factor, we can make it work. So more to come on that. I think that the goal for us is to have something decided and in place. With the safety protocols, the ALICE training that we're moving, vendor response protocol, that will kick off in the fall, but we want these pieces to be ready for the fall as well. So I want to talk about whatever we do, making that decision in June, so in the summer, to make sure it's set up and ready to go. So just wanted to give you that update on that topic.
Relative to the first topic on school safety, I know you can't disclose too much right now, but are the quotes similar or are they off?
Money-wise?
Money-wise.
Quite a bit off, yeah. The second one received is a third of the cost.
Okay.
So that's what we're looking for, a third. We'd have to look for a third anyway, because we need 3 quotes for something that's under $100,000. So it'll be interesting to see if that third one, which one of these is an outlier, if either. And we do have another vendor that has been recommended. We reached out in terms of scope, they're very similar. I also want to let the committee know that along the lines of PR and outreach, we're engaging again next year with Leah Owen and her firm to continue to do public relations work for the district. One of the things that we're using her, she's subcontracting out for us. We're going to do a little work around branding this summer, so we can take all of that messaging that we're doing and neaten it up under a brand that becomes familiar to people, with a logo that people recognize and icons and all of that work. So we have a meeting to kick that off next week. There will likely be at some point an opportunity for the public to weigh in on sort of designs, but trying to be as inclusive as we can be. But you know, the district is a bit messy when it comes to that. There's not really sort of a brand that you see that you can recognize as the Hudson Public Schools, and the more that we're putting ourselves out there, I think the more important it is. Related to that, I do want to just point out, I don't have any sort of hard metrics, right? So I'm going on sort of little bits and pieces that I'm seeing and I'm hearing, and I'm learning from talking to parents, others in the community. I feel like the work we've been doing over the last couple of years, whether it be the direct mailing of the glossy or the social media presence or us attending Hudson Fest and Rec Fest, we're going to have a presence at the Community Fest on Saturday. It's helping. We're seeing more school choice applications this year than we've seen in the last couple of years at this point in time. Right now, we have, I think it's 27 pending school choice applications, which is great across all levels. So we're going to be analyzing where and fit those students.
We're not even advertising.
We're not
school
advertising,
choice because Maynard just put out an advertisement on social media about school choice, and if that's not something we've done, this is, I think, a direct result of many different things, including PR, including what Brian has done in the last 3 years, and a confidence in this district that hasn't been as confident before Brian arrived. And I think that it's really a direct result of many different things, and it's working because there seems to be a very positive outlook on the Hudson Public Schools right now, and I think less and less people are going to choose options outside of the Hudson Public Schools for the foreseeable future if we're able to continue this marketing and public perception campaign that we've been working on, which I think we've been doing a very good job at.
Yeah, it's a great group effort, and I think it's just nice to see this paying off. And we'll try and get that triangulated as we go forward, just to make sure it's not a fluke. But you know, a couple years in a row now, we've seen, not by a lot, but we've seen some trending downward for the number of kids going up the test, which is great. Certainly 2 years in a row, low numbers again. So some of that is controlled by how many kids we're allowed to have based on the cap in different districts. So I only say that because next year's number could be larger, but there was a message, an email that we received from someone in their enrollment wing at AMSA saying, I'm paraphrasing, but something to the effect that it appears as if fewer Hudson families are choosing to accept their acceptances basically over the last couple of years. So that's coming from them saying that they're seeing fewer Hudson families once they get the green light to accept the entry. So we want to keep that momentum going, and we've already started talking internally about more sort of direct mailing, direct targeting of certain grade levels so that families know what we have to offer. We're hoping that we can have Lauren come back again in 2 weeks and talk a little bit about the recent designation for early college at the high school, which is huge, and we really want to splash that out. Whether it be a one-pager that we design and we push out to the community too, like it's very exciting. So,
not to put more on Lauren's plate, but I think it's very important, if possible, to have you here at the next meeting before the summer begins, so that message can be framed and can be out in the community. And you are right, Brian, I think we really need to do a targeted mailing about this program so that people know these things before they're choosing say in sixth grade.
Yep.
I was just going to add that I think the strength of all the programs across the schools, the fact that we still have strong music programs that starts with the elementary, all the way up to the early college piece and the different certificates that can earn in high school is amazing. So we've got to keep pressing on that. And you've been doing a really good job, everybody. But that's going to make a difference.
There were 47 members of the senior class that had the dual certification for language, correct?
Oh, sealed by letter.
Sealed by letter.
I don't remember the exact number, it was more than a third, right around a third of the
I think
class.
it was 47.
And we had today 131, I think, right, Quinn students that earned sort of the middle school level equivalency of that. So in others are on path to earn the seal of literacy. But I think that was just the 7th grade, right? 131 students in 7th grade earned that distinction. So this idea of becoming bilingual, I mean, what an asset that we can have from that. It's really, I think that's something else that's growing. And then I just want to close with just 2 items that are on the let's not forget it list, because just as the year is wrapping up, I just want to recognize the thinking. We did have a parent come and talk to us about concerns around social media policy and use. We received a subsequent email that both Chris and I responded to that pushed me to look at our current policies in the school committee book around just technology in general, acceptable use policy, and there's a myriad of others that are out there under your and then protocol-wise, like we have the form that a parent fills out when they device that has expectations. And what Ellen and I discovered is, for whatever reason, my predecessor at one point, and it may have been because of a recommendation from MASC, took what was and what people have become familiar with knowing as the acceptable use policy out of the school committee handbook and replaced it with what looks like a stock MASC policy. So I backed up from that and said, like, we need to do a clean sweep of all of these, because there's also some that are duplicative and that creates confusion. And then from those policies, we can make sure that we created forms that refer to those policies and talk about the protocols in a way that are aligned with what the expectations are from a policy perspective. So Ellen and I will do some work over that in the summer. Could be the August meeting that I could bring it to the committee for a review. If not, we'll work to have it in the first subcommittee policy when the school year kicks off, so we can get it moving fast. I just, when I saw how sort of off things were, I knew what.
And I don't know, there's a lot of interest in this topic now in the community,
Sure.
in addition to the public comments and email, that it's having a lot of traction. So I don't know if it makes sense to do this before or after, but I think it would be important just to talk through, like, some of the, like YouTube, for example. We can't just do a full ban on YouTube because that's actually used as a teaching tool. There are certain filters that the kids know how to work around those sometimes, but I think just having just an open conversation at a public meeting about why we're not just saying, no, we're not going to do this, and here's some of the concerns might be helpful so that people can feel a part of that conversation before we move it into policy and subcommittees.
Sure. Were you talking about having it at a regular school committee?
Yeah, maybe
and hoping
just
people show, or we have
I
like
think people will show.
Okay.
And I think just to get some of the facts out there around some of these pieces, just so that people, if people have concerns or things they want us to keep in mind. I've been doing a little research into it too. Just there are a lot of educational websites that link to YouTube for documentaries, or just as an example, and I'm sure Ellen knows much more about this than me, so maybe we could just do a little like.
Yeah, I think it would be good to have her in. We just, with everything going on, you know, I could do it justice in June, so I didn't want to rush it. Because we do have a lot of safeguards in place that families aren't even aware of, and some limitations as well, because there's certain expectation about what we can do to help them at home, which we're really limited on. So like, this has to be framed, and I'm sure this agrees, as a partnership that we're working on this together. Like, I can't completely lock down your Wi-Fi at your house. We do have some ability with very expensive software to prevent our devices from accessing certain things at home off our network, but that's, again, that's a cost question, and that's something we feel is necessary or not. So I think to your point, we can work with Ellen to see if she can come, we can frame the agenda item around it, just to talk about what we do and what safeguards are in place. and see if we can engage with the public. I just didn't want people to think we forgot about it, but
I
I
had it on my
also,
agenda.
yeah, so I also want to make sure that we also, at the same time, look at the policy piece too, because we don't want to end at, one point that we're like, oh, our policy is lagging behind where we were, so. So that's one piece, and then the other is, we've been talking with different people about our quarterly protocols. We have a end of year admin, like mini retreat that's scheduled for the Wednesday after school closes. And that's on our agenda just to get some clarity around it. So if it has an impact on school committee policy, because we have a very vague quarterly policy, we can talk about that at the July or August meeting as well, but at least after that conversation, I feel we can come back with you with a more logical answer to that question to make sure that we're approaching this uniformly across the districts. Just want to put those two things out there. That's what I have.
Next on the agenda, we have subcommittee reports, of which we have none, except to note that the superintendent's evaluation is in process, and that is in Chairman Mall's hands, and he's processing the evaluations, and will be presented, I believe, at the meeting. Is that correct?
We're given the information, we're gonna review the information next week, so it'll be the next meeting.
Okay. Great. And I'm going to say it again, if anybody, I think it would be wise if, because we have to create the subcommittees for next year, if I didn't receive any emails from anybody saying I want to be on a certain subcommittee, the committee itself, the 7 of us, haven't changed. I know, Tara, you're interested in one in particular. So can everybody, by tomorrow, if possible, send me an email saying no changes, or I would like to be on this committee. Either way. But if one person wants a change, then that's going to change things, no matter if you say any changes or not.
Did I say I wanted something?
You mouth something to me from across the table.
Oh, I don't think it was about that. I'm
You want to be on the same subcommittee as you're on this year?
yeah, it's fine.
Okay.
Unless you want me to do
Everybody's sending email.
Everybody just send an email.
it.
Everybody just send an email so that I have it in writing and I can put it together. Okay, matters for discussion, old business. The first item is the Hudson High School Costa Rica trip summary. You guys want to come up?
Doug, are we gonna put a video or?
I have it ready to go, so just tell me when you want it.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, you guys can have a seat, actually. So I'll let the group introduce themselves, maybe, and then we have a little quick video to introduce, so if you don't mind, you start with Janet, you can introduce yourself, and then we'll.
Hi, my name is Jagun Duarte. I've been working in here for 8 years. I'm a para at the Hudson High School.
I am Alessandra Burnett. I was a participant on this trip.
Hi, I'm Heidi Hewitt. I am a wellness teacher at the high school, and I was the leader and organizer of the Costa Rica trip.
I'm Zach Stein, and I was also a participant on the trip.
And they put together a little video to kick off their presentation, so.
Student made this video for us. It's not
Play it.
right there.
I know what it is wrong.
That's showing up.
Just so you know, I played right before you guys came up. Can I get out of full screen?
Your ship, right?
Here it is.
Okay.
Sorry, guys. Try it again. You saw this before.
I know it.
Should I close it and try and read it?
No, don't.
The video,
Don't touch. So we need to share notes.
Oh, we gotta go to the tab. Yeah. there.
Gonna put the world away for a minute, pretend I don't live in it. Sunshine gonna wash my blues away. Had sweet love, but I lost it. She got too close, so I fought it. Now I'm lost in the world, trying to find me a better way. Wishing I was knee deep in the water somewhere. Got the blue sky breeze and it don't seem fair. Only worry in the world is the tide gonna reach my chair. Sunrise, there's a fire in the sky. Never been so happy, never felt so high. And I think I might have found me my own kind of paradise.
Wrote a note, said be back in a minute. Bought a boat and I sailed off in it. Don't think anybody's gonna miss me anyway. Mind on a permanent vacation. The ocean is my only medication. Wishing my condition ain't ever gonna go away.
Cause now I'm knee deep in the water somewhere. Got the blue sky breeze blowing wind through my hair. Only worry in the world is the tide gonna reach my chair. Sunrise, there's a fire in the sky. Never been so happy, never felt so high. And I think I might have found me my own kind of paradise. This champagne shore washing over me.
It's a sweet, sweet life, living by the salty sea.
One day you can be as lost as me.
Change your geography, maybe you might be.
Knee deep in the water somewhere. Got the blue sky breeze blowing wind through my hair. Only worry in the world is the tide gonna reach my chair. Sunrise, there's a fire in the sky. Never been so happy, never felt so high.
Great job. There you go.
Will sort of did that, so he can get the credit.
Yeah.
He did a really good job on it. I would like to start this off by first saying that my dad actually reminded me when I was coming to this meeting that on the second day of the trip in Costa Rica, I texted him that I didn't think I was coming home. So, and he told me that's what I should start with, and I agree, that's a good thing to start with. I had a great time on this trip. It was only 8 days, but it felt like it could have been like 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a few months. It was amazing. I really loved that it was like specific to cultural experiences in Costa Rica. It wasn't like we were like going on a bunch of like amusement parks and stuff like that, like really high tourist destinations. We were like staying with like local families and cooking with them, and then like learning to dance and like eating like at kind of like eating at like restaurants that like were like good in the community but maybe not the most popular, but it ended up being like a really nice experience just to learn about like what it's like to live like life in Costa Rica. I also personally really enjoyed learning about the Pura Vida culture, which I don't know if any of you are familiar with, but it's just the idea of Pura Vida is like to live life like without worries. And it was a really nice break personally for me in my really hectic senior year to just like have a week where I was able to just breathe for a moment and just enjoy everything around me and like all the nature and all the community and everything. And moreover on that, obviously Spanish is the main language in Costa Rica. Many natives know English, but like a lot of them mainly know Spanish. And so I personally, as a Spanish student, took this opportunity to actually practice my Spanish with people who speak it fluently. Our tour guides both spoke Spanish and English really well, and they would practice with me whenever I would speak to them. Like they would make sure to like help me with my phrasing and stuff like that. And then one moment in particular, I was sitting next to our bus driver one day at dinner, and his name is Ronnie, and he was so nice, and he mostly only spoke Spanish, like very, very little English, and I ended up having a 40-minute long conversation with him all in Spanish, and I learned about his family and his 2 daughters, and that he'd been working with Walking Tree Travel for a very, very long time. And I asked him what his favorite place he ever traveled to was, and he told me he traveled to Israel 30 years ago, and that was his favorite destination ever, and if he could go back right now, he would. And this was all in Spanish, and I didn't think I could do that. I was very shocked after that conversation was over, because I spent 40 minutes in a language that wasn't really familiar to me or didn't feel familiar to me, but it ended up being a lot easier than I expected. And I wouldn't have had this opportunity if I hadn't been in a culture where Spanish is the first language. And then another thing that I really enjoyed from the trip was just bonding as a traveling group. I'm sure you could see it from the video, but we became very close, like a very close-knit, were we 20 people? 20 total. And there were students on that trip that I hadn't really had the pleasure of knowing yet, because we were in different classes, different grades, like just on opposite sides of the school at all times. But I got to know them a lot better, and I really appreciated having that opportunity to get to know them better. We spent every evening journaling. There was one little clip of one of our journal sessions in there, but halfway through the trip, the boys invited us over to outside their room, because we were in a villa of actually we took over this whole hotel. It was like this tiny hotel in La Fortuna, right? And we had journaling parties outside of the rooms before we went to bed at night, and that was really nice. I still have my journal. It's in my bookcase of all my memories from each day in Costa Rica, and I really enjoyed that. And then also by the end of the trip, we had started at meal times, we would make phone stacks. So no one would go on their phones during meals. It was already hard to be on your phone because Wi-Fi wasn't really good. Not everybody had a phone plan, but we made sure that everybody was actually in the moment and talking. And I think it was our second to last night, we went dancing before dinner, and then we had phone stacks at the table, and then there was live music at the place we were eating, and everybody danced together. And that was one of my favorite nights from the trip, because I didn't expect people. I had suggested the dance lessons, and I didn't think that people were gonna like it, but then people ended up loving it, and it was really nice. And actually, Alyssa came up to me she was another person on our trip, came up to me at senior reception and told me that her and Thomas, another guy on the trip, danced like the Costa Rican, like the salsa at the senior reception. And I was like, oh my God, that's so cute. So I really had a great time on this trip, and I still talk about it with the friends I made, and I would really hope that you guys are willing to support future trips, because I think students could really benefit from it, just like I did.
I mean, how could anyone say no to that?
Yeah. I mean, you guys have grown the trip too.
The food was amazing.
Oh, the food was really good. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for your support, and we had a really incredible group of students that made it what it was. So I was really, really proud of our students for showing up and representing the US, representing Hudson, and our tour guides I'm still in touch with. They had future tours, and they said nothing's gonna come close to Hudson, so you guys ruined the rest of the year for us, but thank you. And so it was really heartwarming to have that and have that bond with our local guides, so they really killed it. So good job, you guys.
I have a couple things. I just want to let you guys know, I've always been very supportive, and I think the town and the school committee in general has been very supportive of international trips. I think they're very important. What you might not know is in the fall of 2001, Hudson was the only district in the region that allowed our students to continue to fly internationally after 9/11. Every district in the region shut that down for a while, and Hudson voted to keep every international trip that we had moving forward. That shows the support that the high school and the town of Hudson has for you guys to do these trips. And I think anybody that gets any opportunity to go on one of these trips is an excellent experience and should take advantage of it if they can. So I'd always be in support of international trips. So look to be a great time. Also, I wanted to these are also two of our graduation speakers that Marcia and I heard. Both did an excellent job, and Alexander in particular, I just want to compliment you on your graduation speech and your message of never giving up. I really thought that was a great message to give your classmates, and I was very impressed. And I was impressed with you too as well. So.
The Costa Rica trip got a shout out in my speech.
It's not even
Yeah.
to speak in front of a crowd that size. You both did an excellent job.
Thank you.
Sorry. I'm a huge proponent of international travel and within the US too, but I hope both of you consider studying abroad at some point when you go on to college, because as much fun as you had in 8 days and as much as you learn in 8 days, it's just exponential when you go away for a semester or even a year, so strongly consider that.
I definitely plan on it. I'm studying architecture at Syracuse, and I'm gonna get a whole year abroad. So that's nice.
I just want to point out they're being humble, but we want to recognize Heidi and Tiago, and I believe Matt Knopf was on the trip, and Caitlin Braff, right? Those before.
Those before, but yeah.
So we can't do these trips if chaperones don't put them together and agree to go. And in this day and age, there's a lot of pressure around taking a trip like this, and it can be a little scary at times to be taking people's children away, and especially going out of the country. So I do want to recognize that. I think that there's a feeling out there that when staff members volunteer to do this, especially getting a free vacation, having chaperone trips like this, that's not what it is. But in my experience also, I'm sure yours is too, that it is incredibly rewarding. You get to see another whole aspect of your students' lives, and you're really passionate about it. So just want to thank the chaperones for doing that, and hoping, sounds like the trip was good enough that you might come back to us and ask to do it again. So that's a good
Ready for the next one.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
So we're going to go out of order next, and we're going to have each principal present their student handbook changes. The order is Farley, Forrest, Mulready, Quinn, Hudson High. And I think we can just vote on, do one vote for all, unless anybody for some reason wants to take it out, but we can just do one.
I'm going to have to, since there's a lot of similarities across the 3 elementaries, we'll have the 3 elementary programs come up together. We did need a little time to get the packet to get the actual draft of the handbooks in your hands. They actually were sent to you today. They are, you will open your email, you'll see them if you have, if you need something to reference. We don't actually publish these until well into the summer. We're just looking for your approval on the overview of the changes. As you'll note in what was sent to you today, there are hyperlinks because these mostly live online. Those links haven't necessarily been updated yet. That will happen before they're published. The Forest book does not have a message from the principal. She does not start till July 1, so that will be in there. The Farley book doesn't have staff list yet, but they're still in the process of filling some vacancies. So don't be alarmed if you open those drafts and you're like, oh my gosh, this page is missing here and there. Those types of things, which are not substantive changes that the school committee needs to worry about, will all be addressed before we publish the books.
If you click over to your email, we have an email from 1/22 today, that you can just open right now.
So those are the current drafts of the new books. What they'll talk to you about tonight, we'll look for you to support how we would identify substantive changes, so changes to practice, so forth. I don't know if you guys worked out, you did rock, paper, scissors, or.
Sally's gonna present.
Yes.
The nice thing is that we only just do a few add-ons from each of us, where most of us have all the same changes, and they are somewhat substantive this time around. Some of them are very easy. The fact that next year that lunch, due to the new regulations, probably will be served on half days, but until we figure all that out, that was the first deletion. The district graphic is that this district came up with this year. We're going to be putting into all of our handbooks this coming year. And again, some of it's just dates, the new dates for open house, the new dates for parent conferences, which are every year they're at the same time. It's just that, the calendar changes by a day later or a day earlier. So we changed that. And the parent-teacher conferences, Veterans Day interferes with it this year since it's the holiday, you get that day off. So they're gonna be on either side in November. One of the first changes, and I have to say, Tara, last year you made a comment at one of the meetings about, it says about what to do with cell phones, and Dave and I looked at each other like, we thought it said you gotta keep them in your backpack all day, that's what we go by. So we made that change this year.
Hey, don't tell my kids that.
And so we did make a few, the cell phone issues are in 3 different sections in technology, under electronic devices, and then cell phone and watches. So what we're adding is, because technology is moving along, so it's not just your cell phones and your tablets and all, but it's also wearing smart devices, including watches, glasses, etc. And after the video games, we also added the tablets and watches again. Since I'm sure that we'll be back in a few years with other types of technology that we'll have to list. But then again, those replacements take place again under electronic devices and also under the technology section, so that each area is exactly the same and follows what we want it to be about backpacks and different devices. And then we have a lot of curriculum changes. Obviously, this year we have had Benchmark Advanced, so that makes all of our literacy and the curriculum section up to date. And so we have a whole new section in here about the new Benchmark Advanced. So we changed from our old generalization of literacy to everything about Benchmark Advanced. In this section under academic support for English language learners, we are deleting all of that and going to go to a new section on English language development. Under pupil services, that has been changed to student services. So they deleted that section, and then the addition is also there. For math curriculum, again, because we had iReady that was just kind of mentioned but not really detailed last time. So now we've taken what was there and have changed it to the paragraphs that you see there detailing everything about Benchmark Advanced. I feel that's really nice to have all these updates of new curriculum we have that are working out so well at the elementary school, so it's nice to make those updates. In the specials area, we actually left out art and music, and they were never listed as a special. So we did this time write about art and music, a little paragraph on each one of them. And in phys ed, we made a change. We do have some problems with kids wearing inappropriate footwear for phys ed class. And we really feel that they all need to be wearing sneakers because it really is a safety issue. A lot of them wear slides or Crocs or platform shoes or snow boots in the winter. So we wanted to put it in the handbook that all students must wear sneakers. And again, we said in order to participate, because it is really a safety concern. We have taken out our response to intervention. And we've added a section, we are now calling it MTSS. So we took it out, and then we added, as you can see, everything to MTSS. And we've changed RTI to MTSS, so that is also added in there. Before there was nothing on the dual language program, and now in all 3 of our handbooks will be a whole statement about the dual language program. And again, we have open house parish conferences listed in other sections, so those are the date updates and the report card date updates. So basically the major moves that we made were on everything in the curriculum area and the area for the specialists.
And what I might add, I'm not sure Kelly mentioned the change from Choose Love to SEL Block. It's something that already been happening, but all 3 buildings use elements of Choose Love. But for example, at Forest Avenue School, during our SEL block, we use elements of Choose Love with the Leaves of Citizenship, which is our PBIS program that we've implemented school-wide for a number of years. So Choose Love still is alive in the buildings, but there's a shift in terms of what we're calling it and what we're actually doing. I think Kelly caught just about everything else. I do want to take a second to give a plug to Lara Beach. The Forest Avenue Assistant Principal, she couldn't be here tonight, but she put a lot of work into the handbook. I want to thank her for that.
Synthesizing all of our.
Yeah, she-
handbooks.
She spent a lot of time on that, and then I think Tawana might have.
Yeah, I do have a few changes on page 6 in the Farley handbook. The section 4 Farley's whole school Paul print reward system has been deleted. And what has been put in place is under the behavior section, talking about the core values, recognizing positive conduct, where the Paul prints are included in that description. So it was originally on one of the first couple of pages, on its own page, and now it's embedded in the behavior conduct value section. And then another update to the Farley handbook, separate from the other elementary schools, but in line with the other elementary schools, is the Farley mission. It was under page 4 TBD, and now it has been determined as Farley Elementary School will prepare all students for high growth and literacy, math, and social emotional development towards grade level proficiency. Students' love of learning will be ignited through exploration, fueling curiosity and creativity. And so that definitely is in line with what we are moving towards and what we've been doing this year. So our mission has been determined. So we updated that section. And then on attendance, there's been added language about our tiered attendance procedure that you heard earlier this year around our SIP, our school improvement plan. So we were really explicit about that tiered system, that procedure of the teachers contacting the parents first, then the administration reaching out to parents, just to be clear about how we support attendance at Farley. And that goes for the tardy as well. On the next page, just really being explicit about our tiered system of support around attendance. And then again, on page 8, just added the restorative practice language to really be clear about what that means and examples about how that plays out, using restorative conversations, restorative reflection, restitution, and just talking about different ways that we support students when they're not ready for learning, such as taking a break, restorative, giving them an opportunity to think and reflect and take accountability, and making plans on how to repair the harm. And I think that is it for Farley's updates.
I do just want to take a minute to commend Tawana's efforts this year on restorative approaches to discipline. That's something we're looking at district-wide, but she came in with a lot of expertise and experience in that area, so she's some strides at Farley that you may not see exactly the same in the other elementary schools. So I just want to appreciate that extra effort that she's put in this year with her staff around that. A different approach, but I've seen some positive results there as in response to that. So just wanted to note that, and that's something that we hope we can continue to replicate across the district.
I echo that, even personally, essential. So thank you.
Can we flag that as something that we come back to at the end of next school year to get a little update on how that's gone at Farley? So before we review the next handbooks, we can make a decision about whether or not it makes sense to include it in other schools as well?
Yeah, we can. Yeah, sure. I think some of so there's a lot of stuff that's the same across the 3 elementary schools, but we also always represent, each school has a different leader and leadership approach and style. So some things might be mirrored and others may have slight nuances. So as long as we're all on the same page with that, I know that Kelly, you've been talking about a new PBIS program.
Yes.
So I've had some conversations with Trish O'Reilly or as some of her ideas. So it may be good next spring to kind of share where we're all at with that and see. The language may look different, but it may be even around the attendance piece, you want to have something a little more specific than the other two schools, just because Barbara came up with that as like, this is how we'll roll it out. Attendance is still addressed at the other schools, it's just done differently. So that's the sort of flexibility we like to keep from the.
In some of the handbooks, we already have things written. It's just, we're talking about the changes in the handbooks, so ours stays the same, but Tawana, she came with new ideas and put other things into her handbook.
I think it ties back to the school improvement plans too, try and have some through lines that are the same, but also give each school the opportunity to make their own goals.
Yeah.
And a lot of Tawana's changes are tied into what she established in the school improvement. But yeah, we'll have another new face at Ted Kelly. You're going to be the.
I know, I'm going to be the old timer. I'm the old timer.
Face
Next
there,
year.
but yeah, so we'll have another new face to join the team. And with that, I do want to mention, and you may have questions and I don't mean to interrupt, but this is Dave's last time presenting
It is,
school
yeah.
committee. Retired in just a few weeks, and last week the Forest community and the community district and the community as a whole came together to celebrate Dave's retirement at a very nice party that I think spoke to the years of service. 29 years in Hudson, I got that right?
Yep.
And 17 at Forest. Or was it off by
18 in
18
Forest, and the numbers get blurry. I
Yeah.
did 8 or 9 years at North Middlesex Regional High School prior to that, so I've been around for a while.
And Forest is interesting in that. I saw George Cameron, who was the principal when the building opened. I believe, right? 75, and George was there from 75 to, he was there for like 25 years, I think, right?
Until they went to Bartley.
Yeah, and then there were some shorter term principals in there for a few years until Dave came, so there's a bookend of two really long serving principals in that one elementary, which is unusual. I was saying to Chris when they announced his retirement, it's not often that you see principals and superintendents retiring after 15, 16, 17, 18 years in one building anymore. That's just not how it goes. And so it's kind of like a retiring breed, Dave. You are.
Time's fluid for us now, I have to say.
So it's been bittersweet, I know, and we appreciate it.
Thank you.
The district, of course.
I also was able to attend the retirement party. It was very nice, and I just want to wish Dave very well, and maybe you could come up and just shake hands with the school committee as you depart, and say thank you and congratulations on your retirement. I have one quick thing, and I only happened to be in the Mulready handbook. The new principal at Forest Ave, Tricia O'Reilly, it doesn't have an email address for her, so you want to make sure that.
Yeah.
I'm sure they're probably waiting to figure out what her middle initial is.
Yeah, we haven't done it.
Yeah, so you might just want to check that out.
Yeah.
So Dave, I really wanted to wish you a lot of success, and as they just did to me, they always like to give me a hard time when I remember something from the past, and now I'm losing another person that might remember something from a long time ago, and they'll affect me even more.
Our days at Hudson High.
We're gonna have fun.
So if you want to just come up and shake our hand.
thank you.
No, we should come together.
No, I don't mind.
Oh, no, you can't walk. Please
No,
come
no.
here.
Today's a little hard.
I think Forrest is left on top of you.
Oh, sorry.
Congratulations, thank you so much, yeah.
Thank you.
Can I ask one question to the elementary principal real quick though? Just about, around cell phones. So around cell phones. Yeah, I appreciate that, language being added to the handbooks. But I'm just curious, if you're seeing a large percentage of kids with cell phones, and if you're seeing cell phones a lot out during the day. There's a lot of conversation about cell phone policies across the country right now, so I'm just curious about that feedback from you folks.
I would say for me, in my years as an admin, I was an assistant principal for 7 years and a principal in another district for 5. I've seen an increase in the usage of it. Used to not even be a thing for elementary, but it's becoming increasingly an issue with them coming outside of the backpack into their pockets, into the bathroom. So I have seen, it's probably not at the rate of high school, but I've seen an increase in the usage for elementary students.
So at Forest, I feel they're doing a good job generally keeping them in the backpacks, keeping them away. A lot of smartwatches, a lot of iWatches, first graders, second graders with iWatches. So that is sort of a new challenge that we really have to pay attention to, because it's easy to keep those phones in the backpack, but the smartwatches, I think, are a challenge. And you can see I do not have a smartwatch. I get compliments from children about my $30 Timex all the time.
We should flag that though, because with the new handbooks, including smartwatches, there are a lot of families that have intentionally chose that because they can limit access to certain things.
Right.
And we all know that those are gonna come off, they're gonna get lost, we're gonna get a lot of, so we should have a plan for that now that this is in the handbook more explicitly around watches. I don't want to interrupt your questions,
No.
but I just wanted to flag that as something we should think about.
Yes, and there are some watches that are not smart, that are out there, and that parents have just like in their own phone number. And a couple of those I have allowed to have there once I've met with the parents and we've discussed what is actually on the phone. And if they use it once, then they lose it. But all real smartphones, we do have them, I have the teacher take it if they, I've already started it. If we see one. What I've seen the increase in, we've always had the occasional child who leaves the classroom, goes to their backpack, takes the phone, calls home, says, I don't feel well. And then all of a sudden they show up and the nurse has never seen them, sort of thing. So that's how we can sometimes find out about it. But I don't think we have an increase really in them using them. What I can't get over is the number of younger and younger children who have them. And we see them when they're waiting for the Boys and Girls Club bus, outside or in chat. And at the young ages that they'll be there playing on phones and tablets. And that is a big increase.
Agreed.
Thank you.
And then, sorry, I had one question too, but I know you guys are standing. Did you have a question about that? No, I used to, yeah, go ahead.
Do we know if we have any students who require accommodations to have a cell phone for medical reasons?
We do,
Yes.
yes.
Oh, yes, diabetics have
Yeah.
had that.
Yes.
Yes, yeah. And that's a lot.
Yes.
I was gonna switch gears to just one question. I do appreciate that the sneaker piece has been added to gym as the mom of a child who just broke his arm in 2 places in gym. I think he was wearing sneakers, but, what happens if they can't participate? Will that impact, what will they do instead? Because kids are inevitably going to forget their sneakers.
Yeah, and we did put that in the handbook, because we're still actually discussing what the repercussions for that would be. Obviously, we have to sit out that phys ed, and we would have to have the gym teacher contact the parents. At a certain point, we would have to be the ones contacting the parents. And eventually, if they can't participate, it would impact the grade that they have.
So it's proposed to be added though now, right? We're gonna vote on that.
Yes, we're adding the sneaker thing.
Yeah.
What we are still talking about is what the list of consequences would be in the order of, first offense, second offense, third offense, that sort of thing.
So I would personally wanna see that before I vote to approve that part of it, because I do have some concerns with how shaming that could be for a student who forgets something. The safety has to come first, but I think we need to have a good plan in place for that. Just before it starts to impact kids' grades and just confidence. And gym is one of the only areas of the day that they actually get to move their bodies, which is so important for their learning. And so I think we need to make sure that we're clear on that so it feels fair for everybody before we add it.
I would also want to attach to that if there are any kids that can't afford a pair of sneakers and only have one pair of shoes.
Oh, we have in the past supplied sneakers to kids. We supply all kinds of, any needy child, we always have the ability to get them clothes, shoes, sneakers, all of that. Winter coats, we do all of that.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Just have Tim and Lauren come up together and there's don't overlap the way the elementary do, but then they're not sitting up here.
It's nice to have a friend. That's a tough act to follow.
There we go.
So, the changes to the Quinn Middle School handbook are largely formatting. One of the challenges of receiving the handbook was that the file formatting was pretty awkward. There was a lot of tables and there were things that when as soon as you touched it, it shifted off. So there was a shift back to headings and subheadings in that traditional formatting were probably more used to. Outside that, the substantive changes that were made, I've listed in the memorandum that you have. In the section that speaks to timing early in the document, we updated that language to reflect the new curriculum options that are now being offered as a part of the dual language program coming into middle school. Another change that you'll notice a little deeper into the document is the section that refers to gum. The language has been changed to, rather than a prohibition of gum, to be a prohibition of the misuse of gum. And then we list out some of the examples of what a misuse of gum in a middle school classroom may look like. That changes to hopefully ensure that, that enforcement is more practical. Further into the document, we also spoke a little bit more about cell phones and personal electronics. That initially was actually redundant. It was in a couple spots of our previous handbook, so it's now just a unified spot. We combined them into a single section and added the addition of smart devices, trying to be a bit more broad. I am astounded by the creativity of our middle school students on what can become a smart device, and they're incredible. But this was to give us a little bit more flexibility with the language, the way we structured it, and we gave some examples there. Further, we talked more about tiered consequences for behavior. Formerly, there were 4 tiers, and it was broken into 2 sections, difference between the consequences, and some of the examples of what potentially could be prohibited behaviors within the middle school. So this was reorganized to incorporate 3 tiers to be more in line with our practice, to be more clear. We gave examples of each tier and then potential actions that could be taken by us as a team to support students and not only making the environment more safe, but making better decisions as they move forward. And then finally, we did need to update our students' schedules with new opportunities for 5th graders beginning next year with dual language, and also with our incorporation of benchmark advances, necessity of a double block. We made sure that reflected that language within that section, not that language, but that schedule. And so that's been updated as well. And then finally, as I noted earlier, there was a lot of just structural changes of taking it out of the table and making it with headings, but otherwise the language remains consistent.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Excuse me, just to go back, there was 65 scholar donors for the scholarships. 59 students received $224,000.
Yeah, I thought it was.
Really great, really great students. So as far as the handbook goes, we did a lot of work on it this year as an admin team, kind of going through it with a fine-tooth comb, and then also with my school council going through it as well. So I'll go through the memorandum and then I can answer any questions that you may have. So first one was on page 3, our policy for high school graduation. There's been a lot of discussion around cords, who gets cords, who doesn't get cords. So we've added that graduation cords are awarded for academic achievement. And so that includes National Honor Society, which has been recipients of cords, National Art Honor Society. We added seal by literacy this year. There was some discussion around that in the past. So I kind of created a process. I was hearing a lot from the adults that they wanted the kids to have cords, but none of the students really were coming to me. So I mentioned that to the adults, and so I had students come in and do a whole proposal on, why they feel like the seal by literacy should receive a cord. They did a really great job. Any student that wants to honor a club that they're in or something like that, they're able to do the pins. So students can use a pin to honor, sort of anything, and it has to be approved, but the cord piece has been a long-standing discussion since I worked here. The concern is that if we start allowing cords for each and everything, then we'll start adding them for sporting teams and things like that. And I try to instill in those students, a lot of these things you're doing because you should feel proud of them, and it doesn't necessarily mean that. So that will go in for the court. It's really awarded for an academic achievement. For senior X block, we added work study. That kind of got away from us a little bit. It started the year before last, where students that may not be eligible for X block were then looking for a work study. The whole premise around the work study is if you're a student that's working a lot of hours and you've fulfilled most of your graduation requirements, it will give you, a little bit of a block to be able to do that work study piece. But what we were finding was becoming difficult to track, and we're also hearing from staff that they felt as if students were leaving their classes to go to work study. So we have revamped that and really cleaned it up that students need to work a minimum of 10 hours a week, and we'll track that to get 2 credits. And in order to do like a full year work study course, they need to prove that they're working 20 hours a week. And then it also needs to be aligned with the Massachusetts Work-Based Learning Plan. This is the direction that Massachusetts is going in, but it just felt a little too loose in terms of kids having certain blocks off, and we want our students in the building. So we've added some of that language around the work study block. We're really focused on attendance this year, and that's going to continue for next year. So the wording was a student with many unexcused absences will be considered truant. Now it's 8 or more. That's just in line with what the state says. And then we were receiving a lot of medical documentation. Students would have an appointment at 1 o'clock and they would miss the whole day of school. So we're trying to kind of get away from that as well. Trying to really make sure that our kids are in the building and in front of teachers. We had some addition and deletion to the attendance expectations around summer school. We're sort of renaming it credit recovery, and also making sure, I think one of the things we worked really hard on this year is to communicate with families to make sure that students and families knew if there was ever a concern around a student not earning credit. So I really feel confident that we this year have done our part in informing students and their families that we are concerned. This is what we need you to do in order to earn the credit. So we've sort of adjusted it to summer school to be credit recovery and at the family's expense, because again, I think we've had multiple meetings with families where we do credit recovery contracts. We're looking, as we move to next year, kids who've had, we really just are looking at kids who've had 35 days or more out, and what we need them to do moving into next year in order to continue to keep their credit. So we're trying to make sure that we're giving them an opportunity to earn those credits back and make a positive move in that direction. And so I think we're getting away from the school district paying for credit recovery, because we have given them the opportunity to do what they need to do. Extracurricular activities, we added that students must be in school for a minimum of 3.5 hours on that day, and medical documentation must be submitted to the school. There's obviously wiggle room with that if someone has something that they are out for the day and they've come and met with the admin team, we can approve that, but we're trying to get away from students coming in at 1 o'clock because they know they have like a sporting event to participate in. And that's pretty typical across the state with student attendance and sporting events. The summer school, we've adjusted the language again to credit recovery rather than just summer school. We added code of conduct. We added athletic events that students are expected to follow the code of conduct at athletic events as well, and appropriate language on sportsmanlike conduct as a fan. They could face loss for attending future events. We added for our cell phone policy that students cannot bring their own devices. This is something that Ellen has really wanted us to keep an eye on in terms of making sure that they're using a school-issued device. So we did add that language, and also appropriate care and maintenance to the school-issued device. That's something that typically deal with the younger students not respecting or taking care of their devices. And then the breathalyzer, we added that has been something that has been available in the past. It just wasn't in the handbook, so I thought that it was important to make sure that students and families knew that it was possible that they would be breathalyzed if we had reasonable suspicion that they were under the influence at a certain event.
Thanks for presenting, guys. In the event that a student was taking a breathalyzer, the parent would be notified of
Yeah.
it as well.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, so it would be from the SRO. We don't actually like have a breathalyzer ourselves. It would be our SRO or a police officer. We would, notify the parent and then administer the breathalyzer. I know that if they refuse to take it, then it's sort of like how it works with, when you're under the influence driving, then we would have to have a meeting and do the suspension hearing and find out why. But it has, in my understanding, it's always been something that the Hudson Police has had in the event of, concerns around dances, it just hasn't been in the handbook.
And then can I ask just the same question to you both about cell phones in general, whether you think that, the policies are working in terms of kids keeping their smart devices away during the day, if you're seeing an increase, decrease, how you feel about how effective those are?
Sure, at the middle level, I'd actually say that we're probably in a position where the kids are actually very good about putting it away. We are pretty cut and dry about if it's out, that it's taken by the adults and that it's put into the office and they either get it at the end of the day, or if they're an unremitting user of it, their phone, then the parent needs to come and pick it up every day. So we're not seeing the kids necessarily taking it out. Now, we do have the occasional student who's using it appropriately. We are seeing the increase of smart devices as well. I had a student walk in the other day with the smart glasses and like all of that. So it's just, I think, a part of our experience of finding them with those devices. But the kids have done a really good job this year of putting them away when, while they're in the building and while they're on the grounds. High school.
Yeah, that's been my mission from the fall is we did have it in the handbook, but kids had their phones quite often. So now it is in a designated area in the classroom, so the students are not supposed to have it on them. And I would say like anything else, some classroom practices have, the kids know as soon as they walk in, they put it up. And then, when we have substitute teachers or things like that, it isn't as adhered to. But I would say, it's always been really high in the high school level. I would say this year in particular, I think we've done a good job of trying to reiterate that kids need to put it up. I was really clear with the students at the beginning of the year that, next year we may be moving towards like a bell to bell. So, you guys really need to work hard at this so that, we can trust that you can do this in the classroom and not necessarily do like at 7 o'clock in the morning to 2 o'clock in the afternoon, but we collect them when it becomes more of an issue. But they're savvy. One student today told me she got in trouble for putting just her case in the holder. But they always find a way to communicate. I don't want to share any secrets because any students watching here, but
they have those same secrets at the middle school.
Yeah, they're very good.
They use Google Docs, like if they're in a class and the teacher is really good at taking their phones. I had a group in detention the other day that were on their Chromebooks and 2 girls type and then laugh and type and laugh, and I knew exactly what they were doing. So it's tricky. Technology is tricky. I guess it's not going to ever be an exact science, but we just have to continue to try to, I loved hearing Alessandra talk about them leaving the phone pile, because I think once they experience that removal of the device and actually having conversations, they realize that it's a good way to sometimes approach cell phones. But it's a battle.
And also just to acknowledge there have been some pretty significant incidents that have happened at the high school this year that made kids seek out their phone because that's their connection to home. And I know even from a parent perspective, like that idea of bell to bell makes me anxious because I want to be able to get in touch with my child and know where she is throughout the building. And so I think it's constantly evolving, and I think we have to figure out how to help these kids learn how to use social media and devices appropriately and not be on ChatGPT and cheating on tests and things like that, but I think it's evolving, so this feels like a good next step.
I think we continue to take more and more positive steps each year. I know a few years ago, we had, things were kind of a mess on this topic, and I think it's gotten better and better each year in the last couple of years.
It's really
And then
focus.
No, you
I
can
was
have
gonna
a
say, I think the right way to focus is what the high school's doing is more about, it's not tell the bell right now. It's we just want you to be in the moment when you're in class. And it's not that far away from you. It's right on the floor, right? So we're trying to treat that, I mean, these are young adults. They're going to be, many of them, somewhere else very soon. And I think a lot of kids, at least from my experience, can respect and understand that. It's just that there are those that use the case, or like when just a few years ago, my son was here, he told me that they instead of second phone, it was the big one. It was in the bag.
Or
Well, we're supposed to
calculator.
give that secret, I'm sorry.
They put up the calculators and, yeah.
But I do think that focus is, that's a nice lens for high school students, I think. If we want you to be with them 60 minutes, and then you get it for the 3 in between class, and then put it back away, and you'll be okay. That's Alexander's point. People like that, they're with some.
No, that's okay. I just had one unrelated question about the policy for high school graduation records. There were a lot of questions that came up before graduation around whether or not people were allowed to have personalized sashes. It's my understanding that they're not. These are should we add that on if that's the case and say that, graduation boards are awarded for the following and no personalized sashes?
Yeah, I think it says, well, the way we've approached that is that it's school issued or school approved, regalia only. I know that was, I had some students that came to speak with me about it as well. I think for that, it's really just being fair across the board, because there were a lot of students who wanted, a sash to represent something, cultural, which I completely understand. But then there were also students who wanted, to represent their best friends with handprints. And so my response is like, I totally understand that that's really important, and parents and students have a right to want to celebrate that. But I think as the graduation ceremony itself is really as a class altogether. So any of the students that had something that wasn't school sponsored, they wore it, they took pictures beforehand. When we did the check on the zipper, like everyone needs to be zipped up, they tucked it in for the procession and the ceremony. So, one girl had a leg on, you could tuck it in, or it's, so I think once you sort of are opening the door, it can be to, a leg or this or that. So I think what the wording is, in addition to the core piece being scholastic achievement, is that it's only school sponsored for yada yada. And that's something that the kids were made aware of. I know that they're kids and they're not listening to everything I say at the beginning of the year, but that was something, because I had sat in some of those meetings. I just think we're clear from the beginning, so hopefully there's not any misunderstanding as we move closer to the ceremony, which is kind of how I feel like it should be. So, and I invited the students to come and talk to me about it. And again, I think a lot of times with these cords and the pins, I want it to be meaningful for the kids. So if the kids come in ahead of time and have some sort of procedure, the students that did the seal by literacy had a whole pitch. They had written different things. So it is, pins are for anything that you want to sort of recognize. Still have to be approved, but yeah, it is, will say school only. And again, that's just fair. I mean, we have kids who want all kinds of different things to wear, and it's a celebration of the class.
And something that feels meaningful to one student could feel unsafe to another, and so I think it's hard to navigate as better parents.
Just to be fair, yeah.
I think the mortar boards have become a place for kids to
That was my,
express themselves a little bit, and you can see Saturday's no different, very creative. Again, that's a slippery slope too. It could be something that could be problematic, but that's
Yeah, that's what I had said to the students who had asked, like, you know, you can certainly use the cap to demonstrate that. I'm not a huge fan of the decoration of caps, like, that's another thing I'm sort of bending on, so I'm not being as strict as I sometimes would like to be, but, you know, meeting in the middle.
Any other questions? Okay, so based upon your comment relating to the elementary handbooks, are you comfortable on voting on all 5 tonight? I mean, your comment was noted, and they can incorporate what they need to incorporate so that the elementary principals don't have to come back again?
Yeah, that's absolutely.
And I can bring information
Yeah,
to 2 weeks
yeah.
too, to show you. And that can always be, and you know what I mean, if there's feedback.
Right.
It can be edited, not like, I'm just trying to think about
No,
procedure.
that's totally fine. I just want to make sure that, you know, whenever we put something in policy or in a handbook, we want to make sure that it's enforceable. How we're enforcing it needs to be fair and take into account some of the changes that might happen, but I think I'm comfortable voting on all 5.
Okay, so do we have a motion to approve all 5 handbooks?
Motion to approve all 5 handbooks.
Second.
Any questions? Seeing none, I'll call, oh, you know what? We have a remote participant, so we need to do this by roll call vote.
She's still there.
We'll start with Joan.
I see a green hand, so that must be yes.
Okay, and then we'll just work our way down.
Yes.
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 Yes, so that passes 6-0. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Okay, so now we're back in order, and the next topic is the 2026-2027 school year calendar, which I believe is just incorporating back-to-school nights and conferences.
Right, so in your packet, there's a memo just outlining what was worked on and agreed to. You guys can say this, but we did have a grievance based on our approach last year that reached level 3. That was part of the delay. I wanted to make sure that the admin team was trying to be thoughtful and that we communicated with HEA leadership, which they were very receptive to. We still do have contract language that keeps us from having these in time. But we are trying to work through the time that we do have contractually to make sure the buildings are accessible. So what you have in front of you, I won't go over it, I'll answer questions for you, but what's in the memo, Leticia has incorporated into an updated version of the calendar, which then we would replace once you voted, if you voted tonight.
Are there any questions? Is there a motion to approve the revised calendar?
Motion to approve the revised calendar.
And we'll need a roll call vote, so we'll do the same thing. We'll start with Joan online, and then we'll work our way down the table from Doug. Joan votes yes.
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 Yes, and it passes 6-0. Next, we have an update on the roof repair and replacements at the Farley Elementary School and Hudson High School.
So what's in your memo in your packet is a memo that might seem a little odd because it's from me to the select board. I contacted Chris last week about this, letting him know that I needed to get a memo to the select board to vote last night, which is not the way I like to do it, but timing never seems to work. I'd like to get it to you first. Where I couldn't do that, I went to the chair, just explain what was going on. So the high school roof is going to be done under an existing contract with the town Crane Corporation. And when we do a project that sort of isn't in the original, scope of the contract, there's an amendment process that needs to be voted on. And the select board is the elected board that votes on those amendments. And on Monday night, they had the ability to get on their agenda to vote to approve Tom as a signatory on the amendment. It's noted as Amendment 2 because there was one done earlier that had nothing to do with the schools, that had to do with the town hall's HVAC project. So they just number them. So this is the second amendment to the training contract. So that's the real reason behind this memo to the select board. The alternative was to wait to the meeting 2 weeks from now, and we didn't want to slow us down. So Chris was okay with that. So tonight is really informational. I did add the Farley roof project on here too, because I figured the select board, they're intimately involved in expenses in town, so I wanted to give them an update as well as you. We did have a meeting today at the high school with the contractor. They were on the roof again today. Things are looking really good with this project. We've started to identify the laydown area, and there, you know, where the frame is going to be located, you know, sort of minimal disruptions in the interior of the building that will happen this summer. But they're hoping to get started very quickly after school closes. Feeling very confident that they can get the project done before school opens. They were up there a couple of weeks ago, the roofing contractor that helped do the assessment of the high school roof, doing even more deeper infrared scans just to sort of mark up the roof. So there's all kinds of orange spray paint up there. You can just see like the spots that they've identified as wet. So they're ready to go again, we're doing a partial replacement and partial restoration of the high school roof. And I believe bids for the Farley job, so we don't have to bid this project out to the high school. Right? The bid process for the Farley school roof is underway. It's going to be this week, I believe, that the bids are going to be in. Dan is online. You can correct me, but I think it's this week, right?
Yeah, we have the bids tomorrow.
Right. So we should have bids in hand tomorrow and be able to select a contractor. That project is also very friendly for a summer project, and we believe we should have no issue getting that roof restored before school reopens fall. So this was just informational. I apologize for the timing, but we didn't want to lose 2 weeks. So if there are questions, Dan and I can answer them. The vote was successful last night without questions for select board.
Great. No questions?
No questions.
Okay, new business, we have none. Matters for action, old business, the transportation contract modification relating to bus storage.
Yes, so I alluded to it in the last meeting that we were able to come to an agreement with the first student. So there are 3 items that I wanted to bring your attention tonight that have been included in what will ultimately be an amendment that you could either vote tonight to authorize me to sign on your behalf, or we can bring it back to the next school committee and person sign it. But there are 3 items are that we would agree to extend the contract with first student in years 4 and 5. We were tied in through next year with an option for year 4 and 5. As part of this new agreement, we would lock in now 3 years, 4 and 5, with the pricing structure that is outlined in the contract already. No changes to the pricing structure. We're just agreeing to go into years 4 and 5. So that would bring us with that extension. We would be the first student through June 30th, 2029. So we would do a bidding process the year before that. So we'd be ready for a new contract starting July 1, 2029, but we'll remain with first student. The second piece is in our contract with first student, we had language that first student couldn't have buses older than 8 years old. They've asked us if we would extend it out to a 10-year window, which we felt was acceptable. This is obviously a cost savings on their end, but first student does have a very robust maintenance and repair in-house program. So they have a whole facility over in Marlboro where they have mechanics on staff to take care of those buses. And many of the buses in our fleet are pretty new. So by the time this contract's up, most of our buses are still going to be well under 10 years old. So we felt that that was not a concern to do that in terms of any sort of safety concerns or anything like that. And then the third piece is just them specifically noting that our fleet will be parked at no cost at their facility. Right now, we'll be in Marlboro at their facility there unless they find a location that would be on them. The other piece I wanted to note that because we'll continue to try and figure out a resolution on our end, because we're going to need to rebid this contract anyway. So if 6 months from now we locate property in Hudson for a student knows that that's part of this as well, we can move the fleet back to our town property and there's no penalty or fee associated with that. So it gives us the flexibility to continue to look for an in-town resolution, because we know that if we bid again, we're going to be back at this again, because most of the contracts storage as an item that comes up. And we'd be in better shape if we had acreage in town that we own, where we could just have whatever vendor, you can park the buses here. That's beneficial to us. So we'll continue to do that work. I also want to note on here as part of this that I've been in communication with National Development. They're the owner of 75 Reed Road. And I do want to just say publicly that we really appreciate what they have done for us for the last, it's been up 2 years that we've been in this agreement with them. And we estimate that it's about $200,000 a year in costs that we save because of their generosity to let us park at 75 Reed Road. They've been really fantastic partners with us in that. It's now just for insurance purposes become a liability for them, all that equipment up there, what's going on at that site. So I did want to just thank the folks at National Development for being so helpful when we were in pretty dire straits with bus parking. So it's up to the committee how you want to
move forward. So I just want to be clear. So we vote on this tonight. We're voting to extend the contract into years 4 and 5 instead of rebidding. We are allowing the buses to be 10 years old instead of 8. And then the buses are allowed to be parked at the facility, which is presently in Marlboro, during these years at no additional cost.
Correct.
So I'm going to make a motion to approve that as presented with these 3 changes and allow Brian to sign the contract on our behalf.
If we extend the contract year 4 and 5, and before that, find a place in Hudson to move them, we're still locked in for that year 4 and 5.
Correct.
I feel like we've kind of exhausted our Hudson places, but we can't say that.
Well, we need to, I think this is best for us financially because we're now allowed to park our buses in Marlboro, which ironically, Marlboro parks their buses in Hudson and we parking our buses in Marlboro. And at no additional cost, but we can't lose sight of the fact that we need to find a space in Hudson.
Yeah.
So these years are going to go by very quickly, and we're going to be under the gun when we're bidding again, because that $200,000 cost or whatever it is at the time will come into effect because we won't be in this contract. So this works for both parties for now, but it doesn't solve our problem, right?
And I'm under the assumption that Dan thinks this year 4 and 5 is worth outweighs the cost of the parking somewhere. Like,
I want to
you know
speak
what
for
I'm trying to
Dan,
say?
but yeah, our
Does that make sense?
discussions were to that effect, right? So our cost with this contract is on the, like, we did a survey, we're on the higher end of districts in terms of what we're paying for transportation contract. I think there was a bit of an overcorrection with this bid because we were well under for the 5 years previous. COVID happened and things got skewed, and I think there was a bit of an overcorrection on First Students' part, in my opinion. They were the only bidder, right? So we went with this contract. That said, in my opinion, if you take the estimated cost of storing the buses, which is language in the contract now that they would charge us a fee, that to me offsets that.
It does.
That quite a bit. If you think about it as a couple $100,000 a year added on to a transportation contract. So you're talking now about, if you just use that as a round figure, of $600,000 savings over 3 fiscal years for storage costs.
Are there any updates since our last meeting on the different spaces that had been identified throughout town as possibilities? Throughout town, are there updates on why or why not those would work? I'm in support of this. I will vote for it. It's the smartest move for all the reasons we talked about. I worry though that we're losing a little bit of a bargaining chip with the contract, because if we provided our own storage, we could have negotiated this down before years 4 and 5. And so it's a time crunch because we have like 2 weeks and the buses need to move. So I think this is a smart interim plan where we have the flexibility already written in that we can remove storage to town location. But is there any updates on any of those conversations?
I don't have an update on that yet. It is a priority for us to engage with folks in town, different positions in town, to see if we can reopen conversations. We're focusing on this amendment piece here. And I do want to point out that to what you just mentioned about a bargaining chip piece, if we were moving forward and considering year 4 and 5 without this topic on there, it would be unlikely that we would be negotiating year 4 and 5, then we would just be going forward, right? So the fact that we needed something is what got us to the point where we were able to have a conversation around what year 4 and 5 would look like. Normally, when you have a sort of, yes, I'm gonna go with the next 2 years, or no, I'm gonna go with the bid, where we do take somewhat of a risk financially, I guess, would be, until this came up, we were planning on rebidding now, and we could have potentially had a brand new bus contract bid. I don't know if that would have come to fruition, but could have had one that was more financially advantageous overall with parking. I don't know. Or we
That's
could
what we
have.
said during the override.
Right.
So that being said, transportation, parking costs was one of the other things that we talked about. So I feel like we're kind of not managing one problem, but the other.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think to Chris's point, like I don't see this as a permanent solution by far. Like we need to figure out where we're going with this. Sooner the better. Like I would rather have a patient settled well before we get to the end of this contract. It certainly helps us as we're preparing a bid in a couple of years. The parking settled already.
I know this is not in regards to the parking, but we did talk in the past about even Hudson owning their own buses or some grants or electronic buses. I don't know. Are we still always looking for those types of things, or?
Yeah, I mean, Dan can fill us, maybe say a little more about sort of the self-op. We are seeing a lot of districts sort of starting to have those conversations. We haven't really go too deeply into that. Districts we're seeing are larger, so maybe an economy of scale situation, but I don't know if you want to weigh in, Dan, on the self-op piece.
Yeah, I think that would be something that we would want to look into for when this contract ended, like 3 years from now. But I mean that it takes a few years to figure that out, so it is something that we'll continue to look at.
Just to clarify, Dan, you would say it's something we would look at as a ramping up towards a bid to see if it's
Yeah. Yeah, determine if we want to bid. Do we think we can be prepared in 3 years to have our own buses? And the other thing about bidding now that was complicated was to bid without a parking lot, not like knowing where the buses would be, and also like gas prices and things are volatile right now.
That's true. I didn't think about the fuel cost. So our contract might end up looking good, I think, this cycle, depending on where fuel costs are going.
Right. Yep, we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Okay, so we need a roll call vote, so we'll do the same thing. We'll start with Joan, and we will work our way down the table from Zach and myself. Joan?
Yes.
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 And Zach, you said yes? Yes. Yes, so the vote is unanimous.
Once we have that amendment signed, we'll give you copies just so you can see the actual.
And I put the 4 different things down here for the marking.
Okay.
Great. Next is new business policy update and modifications.
As I mentioned the last meeting, we have a few policy recommendations. The ones that are in your packet this week are pretty benign, and the hope is that, as we talked about, not bringing it to the subcommittee because they're fairly simple. But if there are questions, I'd be happy to address them. So there's one that I'm going to ask the committee to table till next meeting, and that is letter D, which is policy JKAA, timeout, seclusion, and restraint of students. We have a model policy from the state. We just need a little more time to make sure that it is specific to Hudson. So it's just a draft. So I didn't want to rush that and bring that here. So I'll share that with you at the end of the month at the next meeting. And if we feel, again, if it doesn't feel right, we'll push it out to August. But I'm thinking maybe I bring it to you in June. We can vote it in July. That one's a little bit timely because the regulations go in place in August.
Which one is that?
That's JKAA.
Brian, just so you know, I train at other public schools on the implementation of those change in regulations and also school resource officers. And so if I can do anything to help with the policy or any training for people here on it, I have it ready to go.
Appreciate that.
Okay, so what you're saying is item A, B, C, and E, we're going to be.
I'd actually consider tonight.
Consider tonight.
It's not
as a first reading.
As a first reading.
next week, or next meeting would be a vote on A, B, C, D.
And I'm realizing you're saying that I should put on demand discussion about that.
That's okay.
My apologies.
And then we'll have a first reading of item D at the next meeting with a second reading and vote at the following.
That's the plan. So I'll just quickly say, policy ECAB is a recommended policy for MASC around access to buildings and grounds. We've made a few minor edits just to make sure it reflects Hudson's practice, but this basically helps to just put into policy the fact that during the day, those are community buildings, they're not available for things other than school events. It references protocols that we have within the district, procedures around rentals, which we have already in place. But this just talks about access during the day and making sure that it's out there in policy that's prohibited for events that are not school related.
Are voting days an exception? Election?
It doesn't say in there, but we could add something.
Don't we usually, but when we close school, right?
It depends. If it's a national election, we usually close school. For state and primary and local elections, we only use Quinn, and we used to use all 5 schools, except for Bartlett maybe. Now it's just Quinn and Hudson High School.
So there's on the top of page 2, it says during school hours when school is in session, access to the building and grounds of Hudson Public Schools are limited to district students, staff, and those with legitimate business with the school or district. We could put something in that phrase like a town approved town activities or something like that.
I just want to make sure that we have
That's a good point.
No, that's a good call, because that's really one of the only things that we would do during the school day, so. And we do that really with close, we're very close with Joan's office around that, so.
Good catch.
Yeah, that's good. I'll craft something, and in the next edition, I'll make sure you can see what I've added. Yeah, that's good. So I can go through these 4 and then we can ask other questions if that's okay. EEAEA, EIDIO. The recommended policy is removing and proof of freedom from tuberculosis. So that's the only change there. On policy JFBB, school choice, and this is just a mere state language. It's the addition of the sentence that any sibling of a student already enrolled in the district shall receive priority for admission. We already do that. I think that's just been added to the regulations around school choice. We want to make sure that our policy is aligned.
So that's under the existing policy, the blue words?
So the blue, so on the left, you see the existing, and if you see blue, that means it's added. So if you look to the right, you'll see that.
Oh, that they
blue
added
language
it,
has been
okay.
Incorporated into a clean version. That's okay, that's easy to follow. The last is, we do not have this policy, KGB, which is, talks about the parent advisory councils, 2 specifically, CPAC and LPAC. We have CPAC and we have LPAC. We just have no policy that talks about the requirement of the school to have these 2 important organizations. So I would recommend that we should have a policy that codifies the fact that the Hudson Public Schools will have a CPAC and LPAC.
Are there any other questions on these 4 policies?
Just for the access to building and grounds, obviously where it says anything authorized by the superintendent or the designee, that would be when like Hudson Rec uses the space, or that would just fall under your authorization.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. And it would probably cover, because we do have private organizations that have facilities, so we get bodybuilding. Saturdays ago.
No.
They had the entire main hallway taped off with plastic because they were doing spray tanning and stuff. So they were an excellent guest, and the district brings in revenue that then we use directly for facilities upgrades, right? So if we bring in 15, 20, 30, sometimes more, $1,000 a year, then that can be used to upgrade the sound system in the gym or update, right? So it's a benefit, but, you know.
As long as we take care of it while they're here.
Well, that's it. We have really strict, Len Belly, the previous facilities director, did a nice job of putting together rental procedures. We have a 3-tier system in terms of cost. You've got, like town entities have a certain rate, nonprofits have a certain rate, and then for-profit companies have more revenue. So dance groups will sometimes rent it for a weekend to have a recital here, so. But yeah, so I think that all falls under there. And sometimes if there's a question about whether a facility will be appropriate for a certain activity, like they always bring that to me, process that together. And by appropriate, I usually mean like whether or not it's a good fit, or we think that it could be problematic for the building itself, danger, you know, like damaging the building. So.
Okay, so that's our first reading.
All right, so I'll make that modification, Marcia, thank you, and we'll bring them back for consideration at your next meeting.
We've already done the handbooks, and next we have the consent agenda. Does anybody need anything taken out of the consent agenda to vote on separately? Seeing none, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Can I make one comment about the donations? I just want to note, because it may stick out if anyone watching at home, that there are books being donated to Mulready and books being donated to Forest and Noble Farley. This is a function of the book fairs and the home schools, so I just think Farley's is just, you know, haven't received. I just didn't want you to think it was a private donation coming in and we were not spreading it across 3 schools, so sorry about that.
Is there a second?
Second.
Are there any further questions? We'll need a roll call vote, so we'll start with Joan.
Yes.
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 And yes, the vote is 6-0. Items of interest to the school committee.
Did I miss this? Are we doing space needs study?
Next time.
Okay, sorry.
I only have one, and mine is we need to come up with a date to have an executive session with the town. So we sent them an email asking them to meet with us before, because it was going to be not that lengthy, before our next school committee meeting, which they had a member that could not commit to. So we need to come up with 2 dates that we can send to the select board. And it's going to be the chairman of the select board and the town manager who's going to come and meet with us. So we need at least 4, as many as we can, but at least 4 to be able to meet. I would like to do it next week. Does anybody have any proposals for a 5 o'clock time frame next week?
That would be the week of the 15th.
Correct. And we would need, yeah, well, so we still have enough time to control this Monday, but.
I can do the 16th.
So Tuesday?
I cannot do the 16th.
Okay.
I can actually do the 17th or the 18th. Well, 17th would be my least day.
I mean, I don't have the 500 school activities for all the 3 schools going on next week in front of me, but I'm sure I can make anything work.
I could do the 18th.
I could probably
The
be here
15th.
by 5:15 on the 15th.
Yeah, same, yeah. I'm assuming we're staying away from the Friday.
Probably.
Juneteenth.
Oh, yeah, correct, it is, okay. So the 15th at 5:30 or the 18th at 5? Is that what
I think so. Anybody know?
I'm busy on the 15th.
How about the 17th or the 18th at 5?
That's fine with me.
You said you can't.
Less
I have
prepared date?
something, I have something at 8 o'clock.
I cannot do the
No, it
16th.
would be 5.
Yeah. We're gonna be.
Oh, long before.
Okay, I can't stay past like 6:30 on the 17th.
I would imagine we would be 5 to 6 max.
That'll be
So
It
I'll-
sounds like the 18th is our first choice, and then what, 17th is a backup?
Yeah, I prefer the 18th too. We're doing first.
So the email that I send tomorrow will be our first preference is the 18th at 5,
If not the 17th.
17th at 5.
Yeah, I assume.
Zach, are you okay with that?
I'm sorry, I just got my, I was in SOS over here and just got my calendar up. The 18th is gonna be tough for me to make it at 5, I might be able to, but, you know.
Did you do 5:15, like later, or no?
If we can do it a little bit later, yes.
You want me to just propose 5:30 for both,
5:30.
Okay.
Yeah, 5:30.
which would get us out of here by 6:30 maximum, right? You're still.
Does that work for you?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm gonna propose the 18th at 5:30 and then the 17th at 5:30.
That's a backup, yeah.
Does anybody else have any, items of interest for the school committee? Seeing none, we need a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn. Good.
And we will need to do a roll call vote, so we'll start with Joan.
Yes.
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 And yes, and it's unanimous, and we are adjourned. Thank you.
Thanks for the power.
Chris, will you email us all of the current subcommittees that we are all on, because some of us forget.
Yeah.
And then that way we can tell you.
I just gave up and said,
Yeah,
stay on that.